This is a session on feelings as we understand them in needs-based communication, or NVC. I'm starting with this first slide that you're seeing here, just an awareness that feelings are one of the 4 parts of any core NVC expression that you might say. And anytime you bring attention to any or all of these 4 parts, you tend to bring connection to the people that you're with. So to do that, it's vital that we understand each of these 4 parts in a way that we are expressing them with the integrity that they are intended in needs-based communication. So as we think about feelings and how to express those, what's important to note is that human feelings emerge from our body sensations, so that they live in our bodies. We experience them in our bodies, not in our thinking. And so that we want to be able to describe both our body sensations and our feelings as a way into understanding of our feelings. I also want to note that feelings are free of thoughts, and this is a particularly important distinction that I will give you more details on later, why that's important and specific ways to ensure that our feelings are free of thoughts. So as we begin to understand feelings, I want you just to see some of the names of feelings that perhaps are common, that we may find in ourselves at one moment or another. So we have kind of the things when our needs are being fulfilled, the curious, the open, relaxed, grateful, things of that nature. And we also have feelings when things are not going so well in us, our needs are not being fulfilled. So perhaps angry or disgusted or anxious, overwhelmed, something along those lines. So the pathway into our feelings is to really be in touch with what's going on in our bodies. I'm sharing with you right now a resource that helps you have the vocabulary to express body sensations. What does it feel like in your body, and where are you feeling? What part of your body are you feeling in it? So for instance, I might say I feel constricted in my chest, or that I feel jittery in my arms and my fingers, or something along those lines, as a way of describing body sensations that are going on in you. There's been research done around the subtle temperature differences in our body when people are in a state of different emotions. So here is a graph showing these relative temperatures, with red and then the more intense heat of yellow showing the warmer zones in our body, and then the bluer and even lighter blue showing the cooler portions of our body in different feelings. So in a neutral state, we're basically this neither hot nor cold, but for instance, in surprise, that in our chest and in our head and face, we're warm, we feel warmth in this part of our body, and a little bit of coolness in our legs, it looks like. Our happiness, notice we feel sort of warmth all over our body, with really intense warmth around our heart and around our head and face. And perhaps I'll contrast that with depression, where we feel cool in our extremities, cool in our head, neutral in our torso. But a very sharp contrast between happiness and depression in terms of this state in ourselves. So the point here is that our body sensations change as we experience different emotions. There's this very tight relationship between our body sensations and emotions, and a vocabulary of each of those helps us get in touch with those feelings. So one of the key resources you have is this human feelings list that you can bring out to support you whenever you are wanting to express a feeling, either of yourself or guess at a feeling in someone else, so that you can be cued at some possibilities. What might I be feeling? What might the other person be feeling? And these sheets definitely help build a feelings vocabulary for us. So I encourage you to keep your sheet handy as you're learning NVC. All right, so now I want to come back to this distinction between feelings and thoughts. that our language enables us to use the word feel and follow it with something that looks a lot different than these somatic feelings that I've just been describing to you. And in fact, they look a lot more like a thought. Even blame or judgment can be attached in these. So for example, there's a construct of I feel like you aren't telling the truth. So this I feel like, or I feel that you aren't telling the truth, I would actually translate to be, I think you aren't telling the truth. I'd want to own that thought as a thought. I think that you are not telling the truth. This construct of I feel like or I feel that, or whether that's implicit or explicit. So it could also be I feel you aren't telling the truth. You can leave the that out, and it still is expressing a thought. So anytime we use that structure using the word feel, I feel that or I feel like, I am 100% sure that what follows that will be a thought and not a feeling. And likely that thought could be a judgment or blame, either towards ourselves or the people that we're talking to at that moment in time. So it's important that we translate that, and then even more important that we go deeper so that we explore what are the somatic feelings beneath having that thought. All right, there's another construct in our language, and it goes to this list of words in the sort of blue-gray sidebar on the right, that there are dozens and dozens, probably hundreds and hundreds of words in the English language that are words where we can express something like, I feel neglected. Again, I would translate that to be, I think that you are neglecting me, or I think that someone is neglecting me. So again, we would translate that to be a thought rather than a feeling. And again, we could explore, if someone says this, when you think that you are being neglected, how do you feel? Do you feel frustrated? Do you feel hurt? So we're guiding them to express a feeling then in a more connected way that is a body somatic feeling. So there's a whole host of these words. You see the list here. I'm showing this to you so that when you hear the word feeling followed by either I feel like, or I feel that, or these other words where we can follow the words feel with thoughts, that you will be mindful to translate that to thinking language and to explore the deeper feelings beneath that. There's this interesting relationship between feelings and needs that I think this metaphor that you see on your screen right now very beautifully expresses. So the scent of feelings leads us to the rose of needs. It sort of goes to the texture that both needs and feelings live in our beings, in our bodies. We feel them. They're energetic expressions within us that we'll feel as body sensations in us. And so that feelings essentially show the intensity and the texture of how a need is being fulfilled or not being fulfilled in us. So that when we find a feeling, it very naturally leads us to the need, and vice versa. The need will lead us to the feeling. So the final concept that I want to bring to you on feelings before we close is the importance of owning your feelings. That there's a great deal of angst in the world, particularly guilt in the world, where we tend to blame each other for our feelings. We say expressions like, you make me angry, or I feel upset because you didn't do the dishes. Things where we're expressing a feeling we have, and through our language, blaming another person for the feeling we're having. So in needs-based communication, there's a real focus that we own our feelings, that feelings are ours, that feelings result from things going on inside of us. So notably, we own our feelings first by expressing our feelings as connected to body sensations and avoiding that word feel and then being expressed to thoughts, because those are the ways that we express blame of someone else. we're blaming someone else for how we're feeling, for instance. I feel neglected is blaming you for whatever this feeling is that I'm having when I think that I'm being neglected, for instance. The second part of owning our feelings is that when we express our feeling, when we get to a somatic feeling, like I feel upset, that we connect it, in fact, to some need that's going on in us, that the source of our feelings is, in fact, the needs that matter to us. So in this first example, the sense that I feel upset because living up to our agreements matters. I'm connecting the feeling of upset to the need of living up to our agreements, that matters. And I'll contrast that with, in this second example, I feel like you never pay the rent on time, where I'm actually expressing a feeling not as a somatic expression, something that I'm finding in my body, but as a thought that you never pay the rent on time. Or I can contrast it with this final example here, where I feel upset because, so there's a feeling, there's a genuine somatic feeling, that upsetness, because you didn't pay the rent on time. In this case, I'm connecting my feeling with what you did or didn't do, rather than connecting it to my need. So in needs-based communication, we would always connect my feeling with my needs as we're expressing our feelings. We own our feelings by expressing them as body somatic centric expressions, and by connecting that feeling immediately to the need that's being met or not met. Thank you. That ends the session on feelings.